Добар ден. Гостин во неделното интервју на Радио Слободна Европа е холандската амбасадорка во земјава, госпоѓата Мариет Схурман. Ваша екселенцијо, како вие го доживеавте 24 декември? Се променили нешто во вашата перцепција за тоа како функционираат институциите на системот во земјава?
I think it did change the perception, I think, of all of us. I think the events of the 24th of December has come as a shock to everyone, both citizens in Macedonia and friends of Macedonia abroad. No one expected this to happen, and it didn't fit the image that we have of Macedonia as a country that always managed to overcome internal strife by dialogue and compromise. So it doesn't fit the picture. So I think everyone has been surprised and shocked. I think it's very clear. I mean, the disappointing and the shocking fact is that members of parliament and media have been removed from parliament by force. I mean, the rest in terms of boycotting, dragging on discussions, even sometimes having a verbal fight is to a certain extent within benchmarks of what happens in parliament and something that can be controlled, that has to be controlled by good management and allowing space for open debate. But the removal by force of members of parliament, elected members of parliament and media is directly touches on the basis of a democracy, and that has to be fixed.
Политичката ситуација во земјава е веќе подолго време тензична. Како гледате на неа и која би била вашата порака до релевантните политички представници во државава?
Well, I think, as I said earlier, the events of the 24th have caused enormous damage, and it has to be fixed. I think, first of all, there's a damage to the reputation of Macedonia, as I said, but maybe more importantly, damage done to the confidence of citizens in their own democratic institutions, and that has to be fixed. I think first through dialogue, political dialogue, but maybe more importantly by restoring confidence of citizens in the democratic system and democratic institutions. Now, dialogue is not like you sit at a table and you repeat what you've been saying constantly without listening. That's what I call a dialogue of dialogue des sourds in French, or dialogue of deaf. Dialogue is active listening in an effort to search and to find common ground. And I think that is what citizens expect from their political leaders. When it comes to restoring confidence in institutions, that is much more longer term. It's not an easy fix. That has to be fixed. And I think we need all the good willing Macedonian citizens to help and rebuild that confidence of citizens so that they see that it makes sense to go and vote.
Веќе рековте дека подолго време ги слушаме истите реплики и фрази од страна на политичките партии. Повеќето експерти во земјава сметаат дека единствен начин да се излезе од политичката криза е да се вклучи меѓународниот фактор. Дали вие сметате дека единствениот излез за да се надминат недоразбирањата меѓу власта и опозицијата е токму тоа, помошта од меѓународната заедница?
It's certainly not the only way. I often say that I think generally the influence of friends from abroad is heavily overestimated in Macedonia. Obviously, we are all willing to help and to find a constructive solution. But as I said, there's many people in Macedonian citizens, opinion makers, intellectuals, people from civil society, many people with bright ideas that can, without any direct personal interest, help and come up with good ideas on how to fix the problem. As I said, it's not only political dialogue, it is also restoring the functioning of Parliament as deep space and deep place for open debate that can be trusted by the people that vote.
Велите дека кризата веќе направила штета во однос на довербата која што граѓаните ја имаат кон институциите, но колку и како политичкава криза ќе се одрази на нашите евроатлантски аспирации?
If it goes on, it will surely affect the integration process, because as I think I said it before, it hinges on the essence of democracy. This is about the founding principles of both NATO and EU, which is the respect for democracy and individual freedoms. So this is the basic criteria for starting an accession process, is to have stable institutions that guarantee democracy, rule of law and human rights. So what happened undermines that, and therefore it has to be fixed. So it cannot be ignored by the EU and it cannot be ignored by NATO. That being said, I think the first thing is for the leadership in the country to take the responsibility and fix it. And if, as EU member state, we see a sincere political will to find a solution and to find a compromise in the interest of the citizens of Macedonia, that will be very much appreciated. So it's not said that the door is closed, not at all, but it all depends on the response of the leadership on how they deal with this crisis.
Во тој контекст, каков очекувате да биде извештајот за напредокот на нашата земја од страна на Европската комисија, кој што се очекува да го добиеме пролетва?
Yes, well, I'm not writing their report. I'm very happy that I don't have to write that report. But as I said, I think for sure it cannot be ignored, but it all depends on how the government and the political parties respond and how they assume their responsibility that has been given to them by the citizens of Macedonia.
Амбасадорке, гледате ли политичка волја кај власта да ги спроведе потребните реформи за влез на Македонија во Европската Унија?
Well, political will is demonstrated by acts and particularly by results. So we as the Netherlands, we always strongly focus on the outcome, on track records, on implementation. So we see a lot of reforms in terms of legislation, strengthening frameworks, and we're eager to see that they are really implemented in the spirit that they are meant to be implemented in.
Ваша екселенцијо, дали зачестените средби на медијаторот за името Метју Немиц со преговарачите може да се свати како еден вид притисок на Европската Унија за да се реализира сценариото датум за преговори, но само ако името се реши во рана фаза?
Well, I think the Council conclusions of December last year are very clear to that respect, that the members of the European Union expect from Macedonia and Greece and sincere wish and willingness to solve the bilateral issue. I mean, the EU member states expect countries and aspirant countries to be able to sort out bilateral differences. So to that extent, yes, it increased the pressure maybe by making it more explicit.
Верувате ли дека може да се дојде до компромисно решение за само неколку месеци со оглед на тоа што се работи за еден проблем кој што трае долги години и кој што е прилично сложен и деликатен?
Yes, I'm very confident that a compromise can be reached with goodwill from both sides and really a willingness to find a compromise that benefits both. The problem is as complicated as you want it to be. It is a problem about to find a solution for the name which respects the concerns from both sides, the name of the country. But I don't think we should make it any bigger than that. I mean, there's many bilateral issues between countries that touch on the essence of countries and direct national interests, and countries manage to sort them because of, well, let's say the overall benefit, the win-win situation that is there. And for Macedonia, the win is enormous, which means an open door to the EU and NATO, which is, I think, still the only path for Macedonia to peace and prosperity. So Macedonia has enormous amount of to win with a solution on the name issue. I think I see willingness on both sides, so I think the momentum is there. So I'm quite confident that within the months to come a solution will be found.
Амбасадорке Схурман, ви благодарам што бевте гостин во неделното интервју на Радио Слободна Европа.
You're welcome, it was a pleasure.
Вам, почитувани, ви благодарам што бевте со нас. Довидување.